Controlled opposition is a strategy where an apparent rival is tolerated, steered, or indirectly supported, so that disagreement stays inside safe boundaries and ends up serving the same underlying interests. Imagine two sine waves drawn over time, a red wave and a blue wave. Most of the time, they look different. Maybe the red wave has a faster frequency. It peaks and dips more often, while the blue wave moves more slowly. So at any given moment, one may be rising, while the other is falling. To an observer, that looks like genuine conflict, one side pushing up as the other pushes down. But because both waves are still moving along the same timeline, there will be moments when their peaks line up or their troughs line up, meaning they briefly synchronize. In the political analogy, those synchronization points are the issues where the supposedly opposed people or groups suddenly agree, coordinate, or conveniently fail to block each other, allowing a specific outcome to pass. Then, as the waves drift out of phase again, they return to visible disagreement, restoring the public impression of stark opposition. The key idea in the wave model is that divergence can be performative, while convergence can be functional. Actors can maintain different frequencies, different rhetoric, constituencies, styles, or short-term priorities, to look incompatible, yet still share a deeper envelope of goals: stability of the system, preservation of certain institutions, protection of donors or elites, containment of a third rival, or management of public attention when they need a particular result. They meet at a synchronization point. One side may soften, the other may compromise, both may frame it differently, but the combined effect lands them at the same policy peak. Afterward, drifting apart is not a failure of coordination. It's part of the function, because visible conflict sustains credibility with their respective audiences and keeps the overall contest feeling real rather than staged. In real life, controlled opposition usually doesn't depend on anything supernatural or mystical. It's more often produced through ordinary mechanisms: shared incentives, funding, access, gatekeeping, messaging strategy, institutional constraints, and back-channel coordination that shape what counts as acceptable dissent, reward certain critics with visibility and platforms, and even preserve a rival precisely because they help channel frustration away from more disruptive alternatives. And zoomed out to the level of states, similar patterns can appear through tacit bargains, back-channel diplomacy, public hostility, private cooperation, and periodic alignment on shared interests even between nominal adversaries. So, while it's not a universal law, the red and blue sine wave pattern is a useful way to picture how international politics can work. Rivals often clash loudly out of phase, then periodically synchronize on specific objectives, and then separate again to preserve the appearance and leverage of opposition. Politicians are often treated like leaders, but in practice many function more like performers. They deliver the lines, wear the costume, and sell the mood, while the real direction comes from the machinery around them. The ventriloquist's dummy metaphor, blunt on purpose, mouth moving, eyes blinking, but the force that makes it all happen is elsewhere. Because a politician's survival depends on staying inside lanes set by party strategists, major donors, lobby networks, media gatekeepers, and the national security bureaucracy that controls information, access, and credibility. Politics isn't just simply persuasion, it's possession by procedure. The public sees speeches and debates, but behind the face is an operating system installed with 𝗧𝗿𝗋 methods, hypnosis, trauma conditioning, drug-assisted compliance, and tight control of sleep, attention, and memory. So the leader becomes a rehearsed surface, not a sovereign mind. The handlers don't merely bribe, they program, using applied psychology as a ritual technology, cues, anchors, scripts, and triggers that can be pulled on command, turning a person into a predictable instrument. That's why black magic and witchcraft aren't about cauldrons in this worldview. They're the old names for the same craft of influence, bending perception, shaping desire, partitioning reality, and making people act against their own interests, while believing it was their choice. The stage lights are bright, the audience is loud, and the mouth on the podium keeps moving, but the real spell is the invisible architecture of control that decides what can be thought, said, and done before the actor even walks on stage. In that framing, handlers just need leverage, briefings that shape what you're allowed to know, warnings about what you're not allowed to touch, and incentives that reward obedience and punish deviation. The public then wastes energy booing or cheering the face on the stage, while the backstage operators keep the script intact and swap out the cast whenever one actor stops reading the lines.